Welcome to the this week's edition of Your Big Venture Zone. This is the show that's geared to Gen Z entrepreneurs and founders, and we are here to support, share ideas, strategies, and provide a community for our younger generation to succeed in both business and in life. And as a matter of fact, if you go to Your Big Venture Zone on LinkedIn, you can join the group. And of course, when you watch or listen to this episode on YouTube, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. So this week, our guest is Sandra Finkelstein. And Sandra is an author, a speaker, a student of life. Her greatest gift has been raising her children and learning from them. And she's come to understand we are not meant to be perfect rather than perfectly imperfect. And as she works on her second book, Growing Through It, her desire is to ignite that spark within others so that they can find their authentic self, learn, grow, and expand their consciousness. And she says it's important to dream. Sandra joins us on this week's edition of the Big Venture Zone. Welcome to you today.
Thank you, David. Pleasure.
So, we talk, we're colleagues and friends outside of this interview, but one of the key discussion points that you raised for our interview today is about turning our dreams into action. And so my first question, Sandra, is what are some key steps we need to take when we have a dream that we want to have happen?
Okay, so that's a big question. Could take the whole time. But, I think a lot about this because for me, just growing and I had businesses that, were more, I guess, I would say passions of mine. So kids to kids, which was giving back kids, used clothing and used sports equipment to kids in need. And when I think about dreaming, I think first thing is, some of it just to start with is permission to dream. And I think some people don't feel they have the permission to dream. And I think that's a good starting place, just a permission to dream. And then while you're thinking about when you're opening up that opportunity, so many things come into your thoughts. We get so many thoughts a day and thousands and thousands. And so some of these we'll call inspiration, and these inspirations are fleeting moments. I mean, Mel Robbins talks about the 5-second rule. So if you have a thought or an inspiration on something, I have a book I keep beside my in my car and beside my bed. I write it down because that is a fleeting moment that I'll come back to it. I'll say, oh, I'll come back to it, and I forget. And it's not to say that it wasn't important because it's an opportunity or it could be a missed opportunity, but even that inspiration, because with an inspiration with action is just a wish. And so it starts with that inspiration, with that thought. But from all that, just taking you quickly through the process is then the desire. And having that desire is really your why. And why do you want that? And is it big enough? Is it a big enough desire? Is it going to hold you through the ebbs and flows and the highs and lows? And when you fall down, are you going to be able to get back up again? And one of the things I learned through going through is that, and I'll just give you a quick analogy, is I have a lot of dreams and I see, as I'm expanding my learning and growing, and I'll say consciousness, who I am. If I took a picture of 10-ounce water, I'm a visual person, and I had a 2-ounce cup to start with this process. So that's where I start. That's my red dot where I start. And I poured all that water into the 2 ounces, it would overflow and it would be, I'm not ready for all that. So sometimes the process and the journey is like you say, it's the expansion of yourself and the growth of yourself, and it's also the growth of your business. It's a combined effort because you're one, we're one. So that desire has to be strong, and that why has to be strong. So people often go to the what and how before they go to the why, and I think without that why, you're going to lose it because that why needs to be strong enough to hold you. And then of course there's the action part of it. So the action is the process. It's what you're going to do with it. It's the strategies, it's the mapping, it's the people you're going to surround yourself with. It's all that critical part. And maybe they're right people, maybe they're not the right people. And then there's inaction. So inaction is sometimes we are stopped by our process because of our perfectionism, our saboteur, that voice in our head. And so that's the inaction that could stop us. And then the inaction, also the positive part of inaction is the pause part. Sometimes in this process along the route, you have to say not yet. So that 2 ounce cup needs to become a 4 ounce cup and then maybe a 6 ounce cup. So the not yet is that learning and growing. Then I say there's the failure, the getting up, the learning, growing, and then just redefining or reframing your why, or really finding that foundational why. And just as you go, it might expand or grow or change, and just being fluid in it. So that's just really the quick answer.
I love it. And we're going to dive deeper now, okay?
Okay.
So, when it comes to embarking on a dream or a goal, the notion of thoughts and desires, as you just alluded to, come into play. So, and you mentioned some not so great thoughts like the inner saboteur, negative thinking, I can't do it, fear. What thoughts do we need to embrace, Sandra, in order to move forward on our desires?
So I think there's one thing to recognize, that we all will have what I call either the shadow or those negative thoughts are going to come in. That is natural and normal. Those are the parts of you that challenge you to say, again, is it why strong enough? But I think we also have to recognize to say being aware of this journey, is being conscious and awake, is very important. So when you have those thoughts come into play, you have a choice. They can define you and hold you, or you can say, I'm having a bad thought. I'm going to replace it with a positive thought. You know, I got this. I can do this. You are your own cheerleader. So you want to replace those thoughts, and you never want to stuff them down, because ignoring them is really, it could be that that voice is coming out in your head, and it's a part of you that needs to say, am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I proving? Am I pleasing? Am I trying to just get external validation? So when we were just talking before we started, I was saying I read these books, and there's so many parts of this that say that your work will grow in proportion to how you grow. So again, you cannot separate the two. So those parts of you that are coming up, those triggers, those emotional points, they're really likely parts of your past that are holding you back from achieving that dream. And the dream, we talk about the entrepreneurial dream, or let's say a business dream, but it also could be, just your personal dream. I want better relationships. I want to attract better people, employees into my life. I want to have people that I can trust. But again, it starts from within. So how would I deal with that desire and those thoughts? I would allow them to come up, acknowledge them, but don't get tied to them. And just say, I see you, I hear you, and it's not true. Like, you have to somehow find the way to shift it. And it's a process, because even in your best day, you're going to have a moment that will come. We talk about this, like, where did that come from? Or why am I having that thought? So it's not to push it down, it's to acknowledge it, make yourself aware of it, and don't define yourself by it, and don't attach to it.
Yeah, and
Reframe
do
it.
it and take the next action, take the next step, I
Take
find.
the next step. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, having a dream, Sandra, is great. In fact, there's a song from a movie from the 60s called South Pacific. I don't know if you ever watched it, but I did. I had three older sisters and a mom. I kind of, got it anyway, right? I had to watch it anyway because it was on. And truthfully, I liked it. I love the music. And one of the songs from the musical, and it was a love story. It was a guy meets girl and, whatever, right? And one of the songs was You Gotta Have a Dream. And the song was actually redone in the 80s synth pop days by a band or a group called Captain Sensible, right? As well. So this song, had a little bit of a shelf life. First in the movie, and it was a popular song in the movie. And then it was a hit on, I guess it would have been like stations like CFNY 102.1 back in the day. And the lyrics kind of go like this. Okay, so you're giving me permission to sing. I'm not promising I'm going to sing well. So it kind of goes like this. You've got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, how you gonna make your dreams come true? Right? Talk about the boy talking to the girl. I told you it was a love story. You know,
Mhm.
and so that's kind of the song, and it was really kind of cute and fun, right? And and you have to have a dream, right? If you don't have a dream, how are you going to make your dreams come true? And that's really to me, that's the core message. So aside from my singing, which you got, everybody got treated to
Thank
today,
you.
you're probably going, why did he do that?
No, I love it.
Yeah. But my feeling is when you choose to buckle in and live your dream, you better be ready. You better be prepared because you're going to come, because you're living a goal or a dream is not all rainbows and unicorns. It takes
No, true.
commitment, resiliency, focus, professionalism, just to name a few traits needed to succeed. What's your take and viewpoint on that?
So agreed. I mean, part of I think where the youth are not being um, helped along or supported is to have these dreams because part of dreaming is failing, and failure we see as a negative thing, and it's not a negative thing. It's a very positive thing. But I just want to go back to sort of a little bit about the process because you brought in a couple things that are important, and I did a 2 day seminar with Sage Robbins. And it was called the Unstoppable Summit. And it was about, we could take about dreams, right? So dream big, but have small actions. So again, we having the dream not the problem, but we do need the small, consistent. Consistency needs to be a word. Consistent, persistent, that grit for sure. Every day, putting something towards it. And why I love the book, Atomic Habits is because when I got stuck on my big dream, it reminded me that just do one thing for a day for an hour and it will work towards it. And that 1% change will accumulate to add up to reaching towards your dream. So I think persistence and consistency is definitely in there with grit and determination and all that. But just want to go back to this, what the three pillars that they talked about. And I think it is relevant to this, or
Is
hopefully it's
this
relevant.
Sage Robbins?
Sage Robbins, yeah. So
That's Tony's wife.
Tony's wife, yes. So they talked about three pillars. So pillar one was to have the clarity. What do you want? So the why and the why of and where you are and where you're going to be, there's going to be a gap. So that's the potential between the two. The second pillar was to get your best tools, your map, your strategy, your process, your coaching, and surrounding yourself with the right people. And your support group is really, really important in this. So not only are you doing the action, but who you're surrounding yourself by. I say create a small group of people in your inner circle that you're going to share this with because not only is your voice going to try and bring you down, but the people around you are going to try and bring you down. Not because they don't love you, but like, are you sure that you can do this? Are you smart enough? Are you good enough? I mean, all those voices that come out in your head, they're going to reinforce that like and not in a mean way, just because like they want you to stay in that little circle of where you are and you want to expand. So even just saying that, those people may or may not change or shift with you. I don't know. So who you surround yourself, and plus your dream is so personal to you, it should really be only told to a very few people. I would keep it contained. So that's the other thing. And then the third pillar is what you're talking about is that voice or getting knocked off that horse is you have to deal with the inner conflict. And that's where the growth side comes. And you're looking at limited beliefs and what's stopping you. And this is where you really do need combine both your personal and your professional growth. And I remember that Bob Proctor, I went to see him speak. He was, I guess somewhat of a mentor, and he said, Your business will grow in proportion to how you grow. And it's a really profound statement. And then just to reinforce that thought, I went to see a woman speak and she wrote a book called Coming Home. And I just want to read this. She said, You think you're building a business, but really you're building yourself. When I first set out to this journey, I thought success would come from strategy, hard work, and talent. And yes, those things matter. But what mattered more, the thing that nobody told me was who I would have to become along the way. Because entrepreneurship isn't just about what you do, it's about who you're willing to become in the process. And I thought it was such a, again, profound statement. So I hope I've answered your question, but I think that, I really think that it is a grit, it's a determination, it's a consistency, it's doing one small thing each day, not just from a business sense, from a personal sense, and a lot of self-reflection. So where am I being blocked? Why did this comment bother me? Why do I think I can't do this and they can? Like, that's all the external part. The internal part is saying, who am I? Do I believe in myself? Where's my self-esteem? And and then the confidence is even a separate part, building your confidence. So that's kind of, how I see building this in a small way, small steps, bringing a big picture.
Yeah, totally. And small steps, that wins the race, right? You
Right.
don't, get to the top of Mount Everest in one step. It takes so much.
And it could
And
take multiple
you're,
times.
yeah, and you're gonna have moments where you just want to quit. That's it. I'm done, right? Because it's super hard. You mentioned that we're gonna have naysayers along the way. We're gonna have, critics. And couple questions here. When we make a decision to move forward on our goals, desires, and dreams, we do get pushback, especially from those like in our family, maybe our inner circle of friends. And I use the term inner circle of friends loosely because if they're naysayers, I don't know if you want that as a friend. And so what do we need to let go of when it comes to the naysayers and or manage those that are perhaps more cautious with us choosing more from life? Because I see it as two-sided. I see it as some people are, concerned that, if we fail, that hurts. But some people are actually maybe a bit on the jealous side. What's your take on that?
So this is really, I feel, part of the inner growth part. So,
Mm,
um, so in my journey, and you know my journey, um, I learned a couple things that were really important. So first thing I learned was things happen for me, not to me. And that's a really big distinction because when you can see that, and that's a growth mindset versus a victim mindset. So if you're going through this journey to build your dream in a victim mindset, you'll probably not grow it. It's just because you'll sabotage yourself, you'll question yourself, you'll get to a point that you've like succeeded and you're like, I've never succeeded before. Oh no, what am I going to do? Let's go back to what I knew. So it's a big, that part is very big for me. So then when I could see that things were happening to me, all those hard, challenging relationships, I realized were there for me to grow. So what do I mean? So if I can see, and it also showed me where my self-esteem was at. And I have to admit, like, there were parts of me that were quite low because I was trying to prove still and please. So that's all the external validation. So what I switched was the dial. Putting
mm,
the dial into me meant that I was going to build my self-esteem. And it's not easy because you're right. People want to pull you down. People see you in a certain light, so to speak, or a certain way. And your children, especially, even all the work you do, you want to say, like, look how far I've come. But the truth is, it doesn't matter. Like this book by Joe Lieberman was about never get angry again, but it was really about self-esteem. And we often get angry because we say, like, don't you see what I've done? Or can't you see? But I think the entrepreneur has to have a little bit of tough skin to say, I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. I will listen to those I respect and I'm willing to get back up. And so those people around you, again, they're not there to hurt you. They're there to shine something back to you, reflect something back about yourself to say, okay, where are you being so concerned about what people think? If you're going to really build your dream and build your business or whatever, it's relationships, whatever you're building, if you're concerned about the other people outside of you, you've already kind of lost the game. So if I get to the point where I say, thank you for your opinion to myself, I don't agree, but thank you, and walk away, you've said to yourself, I choose me. I know who I am, and I feel I feel good. I feel strong. Like it's not every day like this. Believe me, it's moments where like you have to like the high five where you look in the mirror and you give yourself the high five and say, "You got this, girl. You got this guy. You whatever it is. Like you're going to keep going." And so, two things. One is that part is just to recognize that people love you, that they're afraid for themselves because you're changing the dynamic, so to speak. So when that dynamic changes, they're like, "No, no, no, get back in that square that I've known you always in." And you're like, hopefully those people will grow with you. And sometimes you have to go away from those people to grow, and then you come back together in a different space, in a different place, or they will go away. As family, you have to just learn like when you're going to those environments to protect your energy, so to speak, or your space, and to say, I'm going to just be loving to them and I know who I am. And sometimes you have to walk out of a room. Sometimes you have to walk out of the house. Sometimes you have to just be quiet. And so I think that the real message here would be is the more you build your self-esteem from within and the more that you know who you are, you don't need that external validation. It doesn't matter. And when you can get to the place where someone says something to you that is hurtful or that is disruptive or that challenges you, you can say, that's their opinion. I'm okay and walk away and not in an angry way, in a good way. Like to me, then you've reached that point and you keep and that's like I strive for that. Really, I do.
Yeah, and the other thing too is it won't matter to them in a week. You know,
Or in a day or in an
yeah,
hour.
or an hour, because they're concerned about what? Their own life,
Yeah,
right?
true,
And you're right, they
100%.
might feel threatened that you're moving in a new direction and expanding, your yourself and stepping into something new, and they might feel, I'm not keeping up, and I'm going to trip them up. So you have to kind of really, yeah, you got to let it go, really quick. And the other thing, I'll share a little story in a sec. So you got to let it go, and you got to move forward. That's the key. Keep moving forward. Take those baby steps, as you alluded to. But
100%.
but years ago, as you know, I had a radio show, and I was getting that off the ground from nothing. Like I had no, you know, I've done radio. I used to be more in sales in that industry, in the broadcast industry, than I was on air. And I had this goal or a dream to have an on-air show, success show for small business, and I called the show the Small Business Big Idea Show. So I was making prospecting calls to get advertisers, and you got to get. I had no show, so advertisers said, "Well, is it on the air? Can I listen? Whatever." There was a lot against me. I didn't have any examples of it. I just had my passion and my dream. And I remember just getting a ton of rejection and made a call to a prospective client. I use that term again loosely because they yelled at me. Don't call us, we're not interested, bye, right? So my inner critic came to into my head, and oddly enough, my inner critic was my mom's voice, and my mom is super supportive. So, but that was my inner critic. I don't know why. And said, "See, I told you radio wasn't for you. You should have been a doctor." And, and I'm going, "Yeah, but mom, I appreciate your advice, but I get queasy, looking at people, medically." And so I went, "I'm going to make the next cold call," and I did. I made the next call, and it turned into a client. So you have to kind of take criticism or feedback and just say, that's their world. I'm going to create my own. And you have to be really committed to creating, you
Can I
know?
add one thing to that?
Yeah,
That you said
please.
that was very powerful. So you talked about keep going. So there is something that I learned that we never give up. We you never give up. You keep going. Because, you think about that, in the mines when they would go for gold and like you just stop 1 inch short of that gold and like your dream, and you're like, why would why you're stopping 1 inch short of that dream? Or I love the saying, rejection is protection. So along the way, you're going to get a lot of rejection. But again, like it could be protection. Maybe you shouldn't be working with that person. Maybe that pathway isn't the right pathway. Maybe, again, like you don't know where you're being protected by, I say, the universe, creator, God, whatever you want to call it, like could be saying, no, don't go down that pathway. So the idea of keep going. But the other part I think is powerful is the keep going part is when you do fall down and you pull yourself up quickly because we're in ebbs and flows and peaks and valleys, and we're going to hit the high, we're going to hit the low, and you're going to grow to another level. Is when you have a bad moment, let's say you've had an argument with a client, or you've had an argument with a sibling, or with your child, or whatever, you think to yourself, wow, I wish I didn't say that. Rather than beating yourself up, the real growth part is to say, you know what, okay, I acknowledge what I said. I don't like what I said. Next time I'm going to do it differently. So the renewal part is that you get to start new each moment. And so we live moment to moment because we don't know what the next moment's going to bring. The past is done, the future hasn't come. All you have is that space of the moment. So then you change that, you change your action. So part of change your action is just being that self-reflective. Okay, so like you said, you did 500 calls, let's say, and that 501 call was the one that did it.
Yeah,
Keep going.
yeah, that's it. Keep going. Don't take it personally.
Love it.
Yeah. When we choose to move forward, Sandra, and we're with Sandra Finkelstein, she's an author, a speaker. I think you do a little coaching work too on the side, with your spiritual beliefs
Myself.
and everything. Yeah, and on yourself. You're your best coach.
Yeah.
You got this, girl. Anyway, so when we choose to move forward on a goal or a dream, you said we've got to take action and leave, but I think we also have to leave time for inaction,
Yes, agreed.
rest, learning,
Pausing.
having a healthy life, meditating, journaling, dealing with emotions and challenges and rejection. Stephen Covey, the author of The Habits of Highly Effective People, calls that you have to take time to sharpen the saw. And so while action is vital, and I agree with that, but having time for inaction is also vital for success and life balance and accomplishing what you're going after. Because that inaction, the rest, the thinking, the planning, the journaling, the visualization, it's equally important as taking action.
So inaction is the pause, it's the break, and it could be a forced inaction, meaning you've reached a roadblock and you're in the creative process, let's say, and it's just you're come up against, and you're just like, you have to come up with something and you're just reaching nothing. So like it's not coming. So I remember so many times when I was at school, or I would leave and go out and do something I love to work out, like just something, it's body, mind, and spirit. Like you have to take care of all parts. And so just finding that outlet of what you love to do could be a walk, it could be having a coffee, just going out and giving your mind a rest. And it's interesting how some of the greatest ideas come in the shower or in the bath. Why? Because you're relaxed. So when you're forcing something, force versus power, I love this. So when you're forcing something, it's not going to work. The power of it is allowing the process to unfold as it's meant to unfold. And it's also like you're chasing something. Every time I've chased something and didn't allow those pauses, it didn't turn out well, or it flopped, or it I had more roadblocks. So the pause is important physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and also just to give your body like that time to recharge. Like you go on a holiday, you go for a couple days or whatever, you just turn it off, you do something enjoyable, you let your body recharge. If a battery goes to empty, if you have your EV car and you're on the road and you want to get somewhere, and you it's like I'm just gonna do it, and you run out of battery, well, you're in the middle of the road nowhere. If you
Yeah,
stopped at the stops, like if you stopped at that stop place along the way and recharged, you could have gone the rest of the distance. It could have been 5 minutes, it could have been 10 minutes. So it's even just like I call that especially, and those are often when the thoughts start to come in, like, why aren't you working hard? And why isn't this happening faster? It's like, okay, I need a break. Go do something physical, something of movement, a cold plunge, a yoga, tennis, walking, singing, dancing, whatever it is that's gonna like inspire you to just take a creative outlet away from all this. I agree with you 100%. It's
And
when
you're
we,
a walker, so do you get
I
really
am a
good
walker.
ideas on your walks? Like, is that where your ideas come?
Yeah, so I do what I call my walk with God. I do a lot, and I do a lot of, talking and just like talking out sort of ideas and stuff, or just giving it challenges. And then I think you've used a word, I know you've used a word called surrender. Surrendering the process is part of the pause. Like I think that pause is part of the surrender. It's just knowing when to say, okay, I need a break. Because as an entrepreneur, especially on a lean budget and trying to reach a certain goal, it's sometimes you have to remind yourself to do this because you're the one in charge, you're the one responsible, you're the one accountable. You may not be responsible for payroll, but you will move. What I remember someone saying that the more it was something like the slower I move, the faster I'll get to where I want. Like meaning like it's not this fast-paced run. So I think the pause is really important.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Now, the flip side of a pause and self-care and timeouts and taking a sort of a mental break from the running of the business or a career or some goal that way. The flip side is seeing people that are totally like possessed, almost relentless in the pursuit of their dreams, that they burn out and the dream or the fire within turns out to be more detrimental than it is good. And I'm reminded of the Elton John story and movie, the biopic Rocket Man.
Mm.
Elton John was like so talented, right? Yet he didn't care for his soul, his body, his wellness, and his beingness. Have you seen that happen in your circles? And if we want to draw, maybe you want to draw on the Elton John example, why does this unhealthy behavior seem to derail our talent and our success to accomplish our dreams?
So I guess I'd like to think of it, the do part and the being part. And so we get caught up in this doing and we have this society of like, well, first of all, we have a society of instant gratification. So let's just call it what it is. So, what I feel that where again a missing link or a component is when you're, let's say, studying someone who's been very successful, like even just take Jeff Bezos. Like I heard that
Mhm.
there were so many years that he didn't make money. And there were so many years he was just, maybe it's a bad example, doing. But there's a part like, okay, let's take a better example is the book of this woman. So when she realized that in order to grow your business, you have to grow from within. So there's something called what I call breaking of the vessel. So there's the failure part and the learning part and the growing part is such a huge part of it. So the doing becomes like you're pushing. Like this again, the pushing idea. You're chasing, you're pushing. There has to be a part where also you're integrating in, you're embodying who you're becoming, you're growing through this, you're learning to expand your vessel so that you can bring more into it. The burnout comes, I think, when you're pushing yourself so hard because your expectations are so high and they're not reasonable. They're not real. Like it's too much. And so it's like you're chasing something now versus letting the process unfold naturally. And so I'll give you like an example. I want to learn golf. So I have a pink ball, and it's like they say whatever you chase actually runs away from you. It could be a relationship, it could be a business, it could be a client, and you've probably seen this. The harder you push against something, the more it runs from you. So, and the harder you push, the tired you get, the more you are burning out. That light and that flame is going down. And so you're not even allowed time to reignite. So I had this pink ball and I'm like, I love this pink ball. I don't want to lose this pink ball. And so I hit the ball under and it goes under the tree. So
Whack.
I'm like, well, I want this ball back. Like I am going to get this ball. So I get on my hands and knees and I go under the tree and it turns out the ball went out at the other side. If I waited long enough, I would have seen the ball came around. And what happened in the end is I end up with a rash all over my body.
Oh
So why
no.
do I say this? Burnout, rash, whatever it is, it's like I was so determined to chase the ball that when I went for it and I ran after it, I got, first of all, it came out the other side if I waited. The second thing, it went further than I thought.
Mm,
So that the second thing was I got a rash all over my body. So when you're saying, and I think also if you're working with, if you're so tied to a business plan, you have to have some fluidity there. So every plan I've planned has failed, literally. And so I'm not saying don't have a plan, but the plan should be fluid. And so in the book, I've had to give myself permission to say, you know what, I have a deadline, what I'd like, but I'm not going to kill myself because if I kill myself, first of all, I'm going in a force action, like I'm going against like I'm pushing against myself. Maybe I need a little bit more time to go through something, to experience, to learn something that actually will become part of the book. So there's two sides. One is I think the burnout happens when you're chasing. The burnout happens when you have unrealistic expectations. The burnout happens when you're not fluid in the process. And I think there has to be a fluidity to the process to allow you work with business plans, so you can probably address this better, but there has to be room for the business plan to expand and grow and reframe and change and to go a bit with the flow. So
totally.
maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, and I had about a year and a half ago restructured my business to work with, the Gen Zs. And one of the parts to it was I was going to launch a membership site for, Gen Z entrepreneurs and offer content. Well, what happened actually this year is I felt this wasn't happening. Like I wasn't getting the money to launch it. I found it too cumbersome or challenging to do, and so I thought, you know what, I'm banging my head against the wall trying to get this, and it's not showing up. So there's a reason. So I've chosen to walk away and just put it on hold. It's not that it's done forever, but for now,
Right.
it's not. And
Can I just add sort of one thing to that? Like, so that part is so important, but I think it's also, I just realized control. So when we think we're in control of every facet of something, there can tend to be a big burnout. Why? Because we are only in control of what we can do. We are not in control of the timeline. We're not in control of of sometimes how things unfold. And when we let go of control, we know. So what does that mean? It means you do all your work you can do. You do everything you possibly can do, and then you surrender and you let go of that control. Because if I do believe this, and I think if you talk to real business people like who have a spiritual side, like when you allow the universe to then take that, it will unfold something in a way that you couldn't possibly imagine. Like you just said, the membership site. That membership site might actually be re-evolved or evolved into something different that will be even greater for your business. So letting go of control is part of the process of not burning out.
yes, yeah, surrender, letting go, moving in new directions. Totally. I love it. We're with Sandra Finkelstein, author, spiritual success guide, and a good colleague. And you're listening to the Big Venture Zone, the success show for Gen Z entrepreneurs and founders. I'm your host, David Cohen. Let's continue, Sandra. We're almost done here. One other aspect I know you wanted to share is the notion of having a learning mindset. So when it comes to working on your goals, dreams, and desires, we have to take the lessons from it, the good and the bad. What's your take?
So again, it's really a good point to start at to say, where's my beginning point? Am I a growth minded person or am I a victim mindset? And it's just sometimes you're not even aware of it because you've grown up in a family where, you've joked with each other, you don't support or you support in your own way, and you find out in a self-reflective manner, you realize, wow, like I really do go to the victim mindset or I go to the negative side, like versus like seeing it. And so I think just first of all, being aware of where you start from is important. And you can shift it. Again, it's a process and takes work. So it's again, it's the thoughts in your mind. What are you saying to yourself? What words do you say to yourself? What words do you say to others? So I remember I would be like, I'm just a mom. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not just a mom. Moms like do budgeting. They, take care of the order of their home. So then I start to say I'm the CEO of my home because you know what? How I see myself is how you're going to see me. So, reflecting that out. So the growth mindset is really important because it's an opportunity to say, again, say things happen for me. So those bad things that happen are not necessarily bad, but they're opportunities for growth. They're opportunities to say, okay, I see this happened, or it's showing me something about myself I don't love, and being humble enough to say, humility to say, okay, this is being reflected back to me. Someone is saying that I'm controlling everything, or I'm short-tempered, or I'm opinionated, or I'm not listening, or I don't hear what they're saying. Whatever it is, let's say is coming up, it's that opportunity to look back and say, okay, this is true. If someone's saying it to you, then it's true. So then what part of me needs to change? And maybe it goes back to the healing part of this is maybe it goes back to a something of a childhood experience. I was just told of a story of this woman who she speaks all the time and then she was doing work and it brought her back to a memory of a 5-year-old child and all of a sudden she couldn't speak anymore. She couldn't get on stage and speak and she couldn't understand. She had to heal that part of her and then the opportunity flowed again. But it was just interesting. So the growth mindset is one is self-reflection. It's seeing things that are happening for you. It's allowing the process. It's being honest with yourself every day and in every situation and seeing it as an opportunity to learn and grow. And that when you do grow, you're expanding what I say that vessel. So again, your business grows in proportion to how you grow. So when you let go of that and when you do work on yourself, you see things starting to track. Clients are starting to come to you. Why? Because that side of you that gets angry is not angry anymore. Or that you're holding back on the pin, you're listening to what your clients want. You're saying, I don't know better what they need. They know what they need. So now how can I give them what they need? So I think I hope I answered that question.
Oh, yeah, totally. There's so many nuggets in there, actually. I like, yeah, check in with your client. Don't worry if they criticize you. Hey, we all make mistakes. Check in. How can we be better? What would you like to see? And act on it. And when you do that, you'll have a client for life. So the mistake happened, move forward, check in with the client, find out, hey, what do you want? What can we do to improve? And do it. And
And
act.
you And you might even outgrow that client. Like in the book that I'm reading, she realized some of the clients that were with her from the beginning that helped her and were part of her village, she had outgrown.
Yeah,
So as she grew, those clients were no longer the ones like the demanding and this, like she decided to let them go. And it's sometimes hard to let go of a client because it's money, right? It's revenue.
yeah,
But what happens is you've opened up a space for a new client to come in or two clients to come in or something bigger to come in. So
yeah. You mentioned humility, and I think too that's we're almost going to end with being humble and humility. We don't have to have all the answers, and that learning from others is vital for success. Um, so I feel like having that humility, hey, I don't need to know it all. I'll ask, I'll look around, I'll talk to other people, I'll even talk to my clients and get their feedback. So moving forward, I could be more of service to them. Do you agree with that? Like having that humility in your beingness is vital too for success.
So humility and gratitude. So humility is important because I think a lot it's a misunderstood word, meaning like people think I have to be a wet rag. No. A very humble person knows who they are and they have a quiet confidence about them. When I say they know who they are, they know their limitations, let's say, and they're growing, maybe they're expanding, but at this point, I know I can offer my client this much. And maybe you want to stretch yourself a little bit to say I can offer that. That's part of the challenge and excitement. But the humble part is I know who I am, I know what I can do, I know what I can offer you at this point. At this point, it's only a point in time. 6 months from now, it might be different. You may have had a client that you've grown with that you now you can expand your business to a whole nother area because you've grown. The humility is like you say, it's saying to someone, I know what I know, but I don't know everything. And as for me to serve you, you do know what you want, and I can guide you along that way. And together, I'm going to help you make that happen. I'm going to, support you in your business through what I can offer you. The gratitude is to be grateful every day to say thank you for the people that the clients that are in my life and to remember that you know, here today, gone tomorrow. Like you don't know, and you be grateful for those clients, and they are relationships. And we haven't talked about relationship building, but it is very important to develop those relationships and to continue those relationships and hear what they have to say and grow with them. And I
Yeah.
think then you will have your client for life potentially.
Well, we'll come back and talk about that next time. Okay, two more questions, and last question on being humble. How do we separate, that courage to learn, to grow, and be humble from our ego?
So the ego sets in when we think we know everything. It's like you're listening to someone and they're talking, but you're not really listening. You're thinking in your mind already what you want to say or you want to say. So there's a saying in one of the things I study, it's you can learn from everyone. Sometimes you're the student, sometimes you're the teacher, and sometimes, the colleague, you're side by side. The ego really just steps in when it's like thinking, I know everything, again, like you're saying, or I think I'm so great, or look where I am in my business. Who are you? What can I learn from you? But we really can learn from everyone, and we all started somewhere. So, how do you separate? I think you have to check in with yourself and say, where is this coming from? Am I trying to prove something? So, am I giving this comment just to prove something to someone that I'm better than you, that I know more than you? Or is it like, let me just shut up and listen, and there's a nugget here that maybe I can walk away? Or potentially you can add something to that person to say, have you thought about this? Or, let's expand that idea, or how can I support you? It's really again being of service. And I love this saying, things come through you not because of you. So
Yeah,
when you remember that things come through you, you can already separate out the ego because your wealth, your thoughts, it all comes from, I say, the greater picture, the creator, like whatever, it's coming through you. Those inspiration, those points, they're coming through you, not because of you.
yeah,
And when you can surrender that, you're of greater service to your work and to the people around you.
yeah. Give thanks to God.
Well, just giving thanks to creator, universe, or just understanding that things are coming through you.
Yeah. Okay, last question. Oh, we talked about, not being a know-it-all and being humble and not letting our ego get away on us. So I'm reminded of this story where this young man was a marketing product manager in a packaged goods company, and they were working with Ajax, the cleanser, the powdered cleanser.
Hmm.
And he brought his dad in to the meeting because he had to take his dad after that afternoon to the hospital for some tests, right? So they're all thinking like, what are we going to do? How are we going to increase sales? How are we going to sell more Ajax cleanser? What can we do? And his dad pipes in. He said, I got an idea. And everybody's looking at him, all these young, executives at the company. And they say, okay, what? Like, what could you possibly offer? And he said, make the holes bigger. So if on top it's a metal thing and it's got the
Yeah.
holes where the powder comes out. Well, if you make the holes bigger, guess what's going to happen? More
People use.
powder is going to come out.
Yeah.
You're going to use more. And they went, oh, brilliant. So I just had to share that. So if someone listening, our last question today, if somebody is listening to us today, what parting wisdom would you want to share if they're really wanting to move that dream forward?
So I think in the entrepreneurship space, I think again, this was some of the best advice. Your business will grow in proportion to how much you grow. And I think that's a pretty profound statement. So I think you cannot separate the two. So it's not like you're here and you go home to this, but your work is here. You're one person. And the idea of becoming who you want to be is so important. What that means is that this process that you're on, this journey, whatever you want to call it, this quest. You're going to grow your business, but if you really understand that the more work you do on yourself and turn the dial within to be a better person, to be a better boss, be a better listener, develop better relationships, it will be reflected back in your business. And then, you know, staying open to that process and allowing the intuition, the creative thoughts, and building your teams with people who you trust and you want to surround yourself with, and letting go of control. So my parting wisdom is take the dial first within. I know it sounds like counterintuitive, but it really is not, because when you can have a good when you can look in the mirror and see yourself for who you are and your starting point, then you can know where you want to go. If you don't even know where your starting point is, how do you know which direction to go in? How do you know what train to get on? And so, knowing your starting point, what's my growth mindset, write out your dream, write it out just for yourself, and just let it go, like go wild with it. And then you can talk about the process. What is the 1% change I can do every day? What's the 1% thing I can do every day? And so you start to work on that, for the business. And then also, what are you going to do for yourself each day? Maybe you have someone, you listen to what people are saying to you and reflecting back. Every interaction is an opportunity being presented to you. So my child last weekend was saying, you're not listening enough. So I had to really hear him and say, okay, am I listening enough? And maybe he's not listening enough. It's sometimes we say what we project onto others, what really we need to learn. So I say one is put the dial within and start to do your own growth work. Look at where your mindset is. Then take that and start to open up, say, okay, now what's my process is going to be? And when I have a limited thought, have the tool, start to create that toolbox and say, okay, I'm having a limited thought. I'm not my thoughts. How am I going to change that? And you know what? Thank you. Let it go, surrender it. I'm going to keep going. And when I fall down, I'm going to pull myself up quickly. And you're going to find in your toolbox, you're going to have tools that help both your business and yourself, because really, again, you're one person. And this woman, I think, said it so well, that her realization was that the growth of the business came way beyond what she thought. But the greatest surprise was that she was growing herself, and that part of it she didn't expect. So I think that would be the one nugget is you're not two things here. You're not a business and then a person out here. You are one person, one being, and that's what I would leave with.
Yeah, you are your business and your business is you
Right.
until such time you sell it or, whatever. This was great. Thank you so much. Um, uh,
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm a little rough because I haven't been done this in 15 years, so
no,
thank you.
you did really well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Where do we reach you to work with you and get this new book when it comes out? What are your coordinates?
So the book is right now being edited, and this has definitely been, I've lived the book. So I'm hoping by the fall to have it done. But in the process, I do have a web, I have a email address if someone wanted to reach
Sure.
out. It's Sandra at aperfectfitinc.com.
Excellent. So Sandra at a perfect fit inc.com. That was Sandra Finkelstein, and she joined us from her home office in York Region. Next week on Your Big Venture, we're taking a time out, and we're going to do just 1 week or maybe two, and we're going to do a little bit of what we talked about today, a little bit of retooling, rethinking, because I want to make shows more interesting and exciting. Today was amazing, but I want to retool and come back with new guests and new topics that really give you the goods you need to succeed. So have a good week or two, and in the meantime, thanks for tuning in to the Big Venture Zone. Remember, when you're listening on YouTube, to like, comment, and share. And until 2 weeks from now, take good care, do well, and we'll see you then. Sandra, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, David, for everything you do.
My pleasure. Great job today.